Frank here. You're watching Drunchies on the Super Posi Show, and happy 4th of July, ladies and gentlemen. You're probably wondering, Frank, why do you look like a f***ing lobster right now? Well, let me tell you, it's because the sun's not your friend, and you can't have fun in the sun without a little bit of sunburn. Today we'll be making a ribeye steak. Now, since it's 4th of July, obviously you're going to want to be grilling with your friends and family, whether it's ribs, burgers, steaks, what have you. Now, obviously I can't bring a grill into my apartment because I'll probably die of carbon monoxide poisoning, but I'm going to teach you guys how to use a skillet to sear a wonderful ribeye steak. And if you do it right, no matter how drunk you are, it'll still taste great. Now, you're going to need a couple things to get started. First off, you're going to need a cast iron skillet. You can use a pan if you want. I just don't think it's going to turn out as well. I've got some olive oil in there as well, just to heat it up a little bit, give it a nice surface to get bubbling and for the steak to stick to. You're going to need some butter. We're going to use this for flavoring. You're going to need some garlic, also for flavoring, and then some thyme. You can usually pick up fresh thyme if you live next to one of those nicer grocery stores, but I've got this organic stuff in a box. And then, of course, we've got the steak. It's a beautiful ribeye steak, bone in, the way I like it. It's my favorite cut of steak. Most people probably give me shit for that because T-bone steaks, porterhouses are what everybody seems to love, but honestly, I love a good ribeye steak. You're also going to need some salt and some pepper, which I've got over there right now by the pan. And of course, you're going to need a drink because this isn't Drunchies unless you get just a little bit f***ed up. So, let's get started. Alright, so once you've got your stove preheating, warming up your pan, you can go ahead and prep the steak. So it's very important to let it breathe a little bit. You're probably wondering, Frank, why the f*** are you letting it sit out so long? It's going to get all kinds of diseases and shit. Well, my friend, let me tell you this. Go watch a documentary on pretty much any major steakhouse that's super famous in America. You'll find they let this shit get all moldy and all kinds of shit before they actually serve it to you. So you're probably eating something way worse than this, I guarantee you. So to start, we're just going to put the salt on it and then flip it over and put the salt on the other side. This is going to give it a little bit of a brine. We're just going to keep the bacteria from growing on it. And it's also going to kind of help it retain its flavor even after we sear it, because we don't want to burn all the flavor off of it. But yeah, so we're going to let that sit for just a few minutes, and then we're going to go ahead and toss it in the pan. Add the pepper and all the other shit I told you about. Alright, so once your pan is nice and hot, you can go ahead and drop your steak in. It's sizzling, so you know it's working. Now while that's sizzling, we're going to go ahead and cut our butter and pull out some of our thyme and some of our garlic. Alright, so while that steak is searing, we're going to go ahead and grab our thyme. We just need a few sprigs, so I'm just going to grab, oh, this one nice big chunk here. Grab just a few of these. This is going to give it a nice herbal kind of flavor. Makes it taste a little bit more earthy, I guess, which is really good with a steak. Then we're going to want to cut some butter. I'd say about that much. I think that equates to about like a tablespoon of butter. That should be good. We don't want too much butter because we're trying to eat steak, not butter that's flavored like steak. But that should be a good amount. Then of course we're going to need our garlic as well. So let's open this bad boy up. I always have a really hard time getting garlic open. It's always been really tough for me, but there we go. So we're just going to need a few little pods of garlic here. It's like 3 or 4. Toss some of this off to the side, you won't need it. Alright. It all smells real fresh, which is good. That's what we want. We can toss this to the side, and we got to break our garlic. So what I usually do is I put it under my knife and I just kind of crush it like that, which opens it up. You can hear a little popping sound of it cracking open. And then once you've got it crushed, that's going to really open up the flavor and let the juices get into the little marinade that we're making here. Alright, so now that we have all this ready to go, let's go ahead and throw it in our steak. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and toss the garlic in here. Toss that stick of butter in there. There we go. some of those sprigs of thyme in there, just a little bit. Now steak might be slightly big for this pan, but pretty sure we can make it work. Since that bottom part's been searing for a while, we're gonna go ahead and flip it real quick. Watch out, because skillets, the handle can get kind of hot since it's not really detached from a normal pan. It doesn't have a grip like a normal pan does, so this is basically all one continuous piece of metal, so it can really f up your hand if you're not watching out. So this is honestly one recipe I would probably recommend not doing drunk, just because there's a lot you can f up here, not only with the food but with your well-being as well. So we're gonna put that thyme on there, let that butter melt, and kind of make a nice little broth going on in the pan here. Look at that. Now, I know you guys can't smell it because, you know, YouTube doesn't really transmit smells, but holy shit, this steak smells amazing. Now, while you're waiting for that to brown, you can go ahead and have a little bit of your drink. Bloody Marys. They taste great. Alright, so now that we've given the steak some time to brown a little, we're going to throw some pepper on there. Now you don't want to overdo it with the pepper, just kind of lightly grate it over the steak. You don't want it to be too overpowering, but you do want to get like a little bit of texture on there. There we go, that should be good. And then we're going to go ahead and flip it over. Since it's been sitting on this side for a while, just gonna, well, if I can. There we go. Get some of that thyme. Ooh, that thyme's popping. Alright. And a little bit of pepper on this side as well. Now, you'll notice I'm flipping my steak very evenly. The reason I'm doing that is because I think it really gives it a much more even and consistent texture and consistent cook throughout the entire steak. You really don't want the outside of your steak to be like super hard seared and then the inside of your steak to be like rare. You want to have a nice medium to medium rare texture all the way through with just a little bit of crust on the outside. So, we're going to let that sit a little bit more. Probably going to let it go one more flip on each side. Then we're going to turn up the heat and start working on the hard sear. So a good way to test kind of if your steak is the right texture to what you like, I use the hand method. So if you take your pointer finger and thumb and you feel this little meaty part right here, this basically will tell you what your steak should feel like. So with your pointer finger, this is about rare. With your middle finger, this is about medium rare. You'll feel it's got a little bit tougher. And then with your ring finger, that's about medium, and then with your pinky finger, that's about well. So depending on how cooked you like your steak, you want to kind of just compare how the steak feels to the meatiness of your hand, and that'll tell you approximately how far along you are. Alright, so it's about time we start the hard sear. So far I've been cooking at about a 5 out of 10 on my stovetop, but I'm about to turn it up to about an 8, 8.5. So pretty high up there. It's going to get some pretty high heat. This is probably the most crucial point of cooking the steak. Right now it's about at the texture I want. It's just a little bit under where I want it, so that way when I sear it, it doesn't get too well done in the middle. But since the heat's going to be really quick and we're only going to keep it on this high heat for a short period of time per side, it should just cook the steak, give it a nice brownish blackish crust, and on the inside should have a nice even, like a cool pink center, which is exactly how I take my steaks. So fingers crossed, this is where crunch time sets in. As you can see, we're getting really close to where we want to be. So we're going to go ahead and let this side sit for a little bit longer, flip it one more time, and we should be good to go. And there you go. There is your beautiful, freshly cooked ribeye steak. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully you guys are able to cook an awesome steak just like I did, and hopefully you guys have a wonderful 4th of July. Thank you guys. My name has been Frank Telesca, and as always, stay positive. Oh, hell yeah.